experienced, it was quite an interesting situation. So I had started, my film had got a lot of success for me. It won 23 competitions, fun, and suddenly Hollywood got interested in me, So I went there, and then I started working on a film for the Weinsteins or whatever, which was a thriller film. And then suddenly they decided they were going to make a follow-up to this movie, The Crow. None of this is being said in the light of moaning or anything about Weinsteins or anything. I'm just telling you the story of what's happened and our relationship, and then that's interesting. So the film The Crow came along, and I said, that's a really hard thing to do, because the guy, you'll know the story, the guy who was in the previous film, it's a very sad story. The guy was a beautiful young man, and he died during the process of the film. So we were having to follow up this film. What's wrong? Okay, we were having to follow up this film, and that was very, everyone was saying, well, is someone going to die? Is someone going to... I was like, I hope not, I really hope not, that's not my ambition. But of course, partly why the original Crow did very well, because it very much was immersed in the world of death. I heard Hugh talking about death earlier on as well, and a lot of films are about death. And the world of The Crow was very much about death, someone who came back from the dead. So in a way, what happened in real life of this death of this beautiful young man who died, who had every promise, and he died in the process. No one should die in the process of making a film. So my thing, when I came to the movie, was we're going to do something different. We're going to try and do something different. What we will probably end up talking about...
Shall we just say how he died? Or
it was really unfortunate. I think they were on an insane schedule. One of the things you do when you shoot a film, one of the things I always do, is you make sure people are safe. You just make sure. That is the first thing.
Yeah, and that movie changed the set rules, security set rules on
I think they would. I don't know. I'm not sure. But what I understand, and I know the scene it happened in, is a day actor came in, and it's awful. And there is a scene which is in the movie where they were moving so fast. There was a little piece of bullet lodged in the gun. And the gun got fired, and it went into Brandon Lee's side, and he didn't die immediately, he died 4 days later. And that is so tragic. I mean, if you see that film, but I think in a way, that film made an incredible amount of money. In a way, what the film was about was kind of got reflected in a very, very dark way, in terms of what happened in real life. So this was the thing, I knew we were taking this on. I knew that's what, and one of the things I knew we had to do was try and make a movie that was different. But the problem is that happened, which we will come to that story, is, and what Hugh was talking about, which I totally identify with, which is you have to listen to the money, or in my instance, I was given very little choice, I knew when I was making this film, when I walked onto the set on the first day of Universal Studios, I walked on, philosophically speaking, with a suit of armour, because I thought the fuckers are going to try and get it off me. They're going to try, I know what they're going to try and do, and they're going to try and reduce me down, because that's, I'm afraid, how Hollywood works. And so, within 2 days they had a crowbar to the back of my, forgive the pun, but they had a crowbar, to take off my armour, and slowly that's what happened throughout the process.
A crowbar, comment ça traduit? A crowbar. It's like un pied de biche, voilà, c'est ça, un pied de biche.
Yeah, so we really set out to make a movie that was different, and really what happened ultimately, and we'll come to that story, and then I want to tell you about this guy, he's an amazing guy, and I'll tell you why in a second. But we came, by the time we got to the cutting room, that's the political place, right, Hugh? Isn't that where the shit, as you know, that's where the shit hits the fan, isn't it?
With Weinstein,
No, well, yeah, no, with the Weinstein specific, and I'm not going to jump on the Weinstein bandwagon maybe, but of course it was. We know that. They had fantastic choice in movies. They made all the movies I wanted to see. Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, my God, the new energy of films. But like you said, and particularly with these guys, so what they did was we shot a film, and then they cut it to be another film, completely. And that was a very long, I won't go into the process of how that
happened. Did they remove you as a director?
What's that?
Did they remove you?
Well, I'll come on to that story. So yes, they did.
That's what they do.
Yeah, it is what they do. But I'm not, as I say, I'm not...
Even if you're there, they still...
Of course. And I'll tell you, so I'm going to tell you about this, my very good friend, Vincent. And, I'll just tell you this about this man, because when I had been removed from the movie, which was very painful for me, but Vincent basically said to them, I will not go on without Tim being on set. And the film was given to another director, which was very painful for me, because I'd really had high hopes for this film. And I sat on this set, and I remember, I don't know, do you remember this day? There were 1,000 people, we were at Universal Studios, and there were like 1,000 people with this big fuck-off set. And this other guy was directing it, whose dad was a very, I won't mention Tim's anymore. Anyway, what's that?
Please mention his name.
Okay, his name was Tim Zinnemann, and he was Fred Zinnemann's son.
Yes.
Do you know him?
Well, Fred was a wonderful director.
Well, Fred was, and of course,
Master.
And so the worst line I said to Tim Zinnemann, the only line I could give back to him was, I said to him, why don't you direct a movie of your own, Tim? Meow. That was the worst. Yeah, round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. No, seriously. So Vincent, I want to tell you about Vincent. So I was removed from the movie, as you said, that's what they did. And that was about exerting power. Again, I'm saying there's nothing from the point of view of moaning, that's irrelevant, or I'm not bad-mouthing. Everyone bad-mouths, particularly given what we know in the news, okay? This is not my story. I'm just telling the story of what happened to my film and our film. But Vincent was amazing. So we're on this Universal Studios. I'm not directing it. I'm sitting on a chair like this, making everyone know. Vincent said, I won't go on without Tim being there. And he would be shooting scenes with this other director. Vincent, as the crow, would walk off set and say, Tim, are you happy with that? And that took balls, a round of applause for this man, because for a man to do that, seriously, because that takes serious balls to do what you did. So that's, you know, oh look, he's got all red, he's got all red. No, seriously, that really took, you know, something for this guy to do, and he was amazing. You know.
Thank you.
No, but he did. Not many actors would do that. Really.
No, but thank you. No, I think what was incredibly courageous is for you to be on the set and to stay on the set. And I think, you know, what triggered that.
Yeah.
I think it's our friendship. But because we became friends. I didn't know Tim before the call. And I think it's quite, it doesn't happen very often, right?
No, especially when you've had a bad situation, where you've made what is maybe not the film you wanted to make, and that can ruin a friendship. Mm-hmm. But I'll just tell you two stories about The Crow, and then we can talk more about it, or maybe we should, whatever. Two stories. This is how my mind works, it's sad. But, okay, so I'm about to shoot my first movie, and I get a call from one of the Weinsteins. Again, I'm not moaning about this too much these days. We all know the Me Too shit, and it's great it's happened. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. But I'm not talking about that aspect of it, you know? And it's the day before I'm shooting a big movie for me, and I get a call from a baby brother, Bob, and he says, I'm sending the boys around to make you not shoot the story this way. And actually, he was right about some things, but unfortunately, there was a very confrontational way of working, which caused the producer. What I learned was that story in Hollywood can be like brokering. It can be like giving out chips of money, or Las Vegas. You know, I'll give you this bit of story if you do this, and I was amazed by that process. And so this process began. I'm going to tell you about the first day of filming, and then the last day. So the first day of filming, the guys from the Weinsteins were coming over, and the guys from Ed Pressman, the producer, were coming over to have a story meeting at 8 o'clock the night before we have a huge set waiting at Universal Studios to tell me not to shoot the movie like this, which, you know, they started having a fist fight. It is the most surreal thing I've ever seen. I lived in Century City. Yeah, no, Ed wasn't there, it was his boys. It was his boys. It was Alessandro. It was his boys, and they started having a story meeting, and they started having a fight in their Armani suits, beating the shit out of each other. So I could see the guys from Miramax, and I'm thinking, shit, I'm shooting this movie tomorrow. And then they're beating the shit out of each other. And then they rolled out onto my lawn. You remember that little house I lived in Century City? And this is again, it was dusk. It was that beautiful LA light, that red light. And the lawn, you know, the watering things were going around. And these guys with the Armani suits were rolling around in the dirt, beating the shit out of each other. And then the guy from Miramax went off, and he did a wheelie on his motorbike, I'll never forget it. And he went, fuck you, shoot this movie like this if you want it, fuck you! And then did a wheelie down the road. And anyway, that's the night before I shot my movie, right? So that's the night night before. So it cut to the end of the movie, and it's a very complicated story, but basically they allowed me to shoot 5/6 of the movie because that was the way they were going to exert pressure in the cutting room, okay? So what happened was there was a screening, and I had Bob and Harvey, you know, the guys we all now know, Bob, you know, sitting 1 inch behind me, which is not a nice thing when they don't like the movie, and they want you to know that. So I had them hissing on my neck, and knowing that what we'd done was not what we set out to do, because they'd recut it. And then what happened, he mentioned Ed Preston, our producer, he was a little fella, and and I'm not kidding you, I saw him take off the ground, and I saw him start flying with this high-pitched sound. And then, as the end of my film is playing, they start fighting again in front of the scene. And I'm watching my career, and I'm watching my film that is being changed beyond recognition. And I'm seeing their silhouettes up there, beating the shit out of each other. I'm pleased you think it's fucking funny. You should have been there, darling. But then, yeah, a round of applause for Karina, who thinks it's hilarious. No, anyway, so there I am, and then it's very funny, I know. So, and then Ed Pressman grabbed Bob Weinstein and threw him against the wall. And threw him, and I don't know if you know how Bob Weinstein looks, and he went, not the face, Ed, not the face. And it was so, I mean, anyway, so that was my experience of Hollywood. And on my website, we've got limited time, and I want to show our new film. And, okay, but that was my experience, and our friendship has survived, which I'm very proud of.
Yes.
And I'm very, very proud of that, because, you know, it ended up not being, but we were talking about this the other day, how we were different men, we were young men then.
Yes, we were young men.
Taking on a
I was discovering the thing, you know, that working in Hollywood and
how did you
having a house on the hills and, you know,
I remember that.
thing, yes. And
he laughs nervously.
And it was good. And also there's something, when we worked nights, we did nights.
That was the other
many
thing.
weeks,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So we were all white at the end of the you remember that? We were all so pale because we never saw the sun.
I'm not a night person, and we were shooting on a sliding schedule through the night, and it was relentless. Do you remember that night, the helicopter? Yeah, one night we were just filming on an LA street, and suddenly there was that massive metal sound. You were there. Do you remember with that guy? And it's just like an LA scene, you know? And this car goes past at about 90 miles an hour with guns, and then about 12 police cars between my camera and Vincent standing on the other side of the road. And then helicopters.
That was in downtown, right?
Was that? Yeah, downtown by that bridge. And suddenly there's like 12 helicopters coming and guns going off, and we're just like, okay, car.
And there was also something, you know, during 6 months when you know when they said that I was the guy who was going to replace Brandon Lee, right?
Yeah.
You know, it was in the press and so, and everyone was like 5 months before. I mean, you casted me like 5 months before, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
So everyone during during 5 months that was telling me about, you know, was advice. How can I say that?
They were advising you?
No, they were warning me.
Oh, about that you were going to
die. You know, careful on the set. You know?
Yeah.
So I was like, I had that energy and vibe.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. During those 5 months. Before, you know, every time I was saying, or people were telling me about The Crow, you always had that little thing about death. You know what I mean? And to be careful.
Yeah.
So. Was it like, I don't know if it was like the second day or something like that, shooting when the thing exploded in my
I forgot about that. Yeah, you got very angry, rightfully so.
Well, no,
he had a thing called a squib on his head.
I was supposed to take a gun like this, you know, and to show that I can't die, and pull the bullet in my head. So they did put like a
squib,
an explosive, you know,
with blood in,
like this, you know. And we were in a hurry, of course. We had to finish the day, and so we take one take. I do the thing, I fall, and then I wake up and they change. I stand up and then they change the explosive thing. We do the second take. I take the gun, boom, and then I fall down and I don't move. because they reversed the explosive. So I kind of came back on Earth, opening my eyes. I was laying down, and I saw people. You know, I saw. I think Ed Pressman was there,
Really?
and I saw producers,
Oh, yes,
and I
right.
saw,
Yeah.
and I came back, you know, and then those 5 months of people telling me, "Be careful," became
Yeah.
and then also the accident.
Yeah, there was nearly an accident. Yeah. Should I talk about that one? Maybe not. Where should I? Yeah, that one, yeah.
Okay.
And then, so much of the
Well, shall we talk about then what happened? I would like to know what happened. Your relationship
Right.
with making films, you know.
Okay.
You know.
It's kind of sad what happened. It is sad in some ways, but it's kind of marvellous in some ways, because part of the reason I'm sitting here is because I really want to make a movie again. I've suddenly got it. I tell you what it did. It really, really put me off. I shouldn't have let it happen to me, but I did. It was a very emotional roller coaster, you know, for me. I'm being very honest. It was very difficult for me to have made a film. I felt very responsible. I felt responsible to you, my friend, you know, and I felt like I was very friendly with Iggy Pop, who I brought into the film, and I asked him to be in the film, and I felt I'd let him down. And you know, people forgive you and people are wonderful. And you know, I didn't see Iggy for a few years after that. And then Vic and I went to see him, didn't we, backstage at a concert. And Vic, I'd always told about Iggy and how wonderful he was and what a great guy he was. And literally as we walked up this corridor, he was bouncing on his chair, ready to see me. And, you know, and he said, "Hey man, you know," and it was cool. So in some ways I think I'm maybe a bit British about it, that I probably allowed myself to suffer too much. But in some ways I'm fine, because I think I want to make complex films which are complex, and yeah. So
then, like, yeah.
yeah.
But so.